Tales from the Jails. I am John G. Sutton. Today, by special request of people who subscribe to this channel, I am going to discuss the paranormal, and specifically one particular haunting in British prisons that takes place and still takes place, but it certainly was taking place in the 1970s when I was there, at Her Majesty's Prison, Strangeways, which is located near Cheetham Hill on Southall Street in Manchester. It's called Strangeways because that is the area upon which it's built. The land was previously a park called Strangeways Park, and it is now the prison. And there was there conducted executions. And in the early 1900s, the executioner was a man by the name of John Ellis. Now, John Ellis to this day haunts Strangeways Prison. But before I get round to discussing his haunting, and his ghost has been seen on numerous occasions, let me tell you about some of the reasons why he returns to Strangeways. In the 1940s, he appeared after his death at a seance conducted by a very famous medium called Leslie Flint. And during this seance, John Ellis came through and spoke through Leslie Flint and explained how he deeply regretted, now that he was on the other side, he deeply regretted his occupation as executioner, and he believed that no human being had the right to take life, no matter what. And he was specifically concerned with the execution of a specific individual, a female called Edith Thompson, who was executed at Holloway Prison by John Ellis. And the reason that this particular execution so disturbed him may disturb you. You see, Edith Thompson, unbeknownst to the authorities, was at the time pregnant, or so it was believed, because when she was hung by the neck, she collapsed on the way to the gallows and was transported, lifted up by the jailers, placed on the scaffolding. John Ellis put the rope round her neck and she dropped through, and as she dropped through and her neck snapped, she underwent a vaginal explosion, so to speak, and practically disemboweled herself. So the contents of her womb and everything splattered onto the floor beneath her, and she was dead. And this so horrified John Ellis that in the year 1924, he was no longer able to work. He resigned. He'd been the hangman for 23 years. He'd conducted numerous high-profile executions, one particular such being a man called Harvey Crippen, otherwise known as Dr. Crippen, who had poisoned his wife and attempted to escape on a boat called the Montrose that was to dock at Quebec in Canada. But he was arrested on the decks of the Montrose, transported back to England, where he was found guilty and subsequently hung by the neck until he was dead by John Ellis. John Ellis also executed the infamous spy and notorious villain traitor to the country, Sir Roger Casement. Very interesting case for Dr. Casement. But he met his end with John Ellis. But John Ellis, faced with this terrible burden, he felt guilty for executing Edith Thompson, could no longer face life, and in a fit of drunken rage took a cutthroat razor, and after first threatening to kill his own wife, took the cutthroat razor and slashed his own throat, severing the jugular vein, and he fell to the ground, where he was discovered dead. But his ghost lives on. Now, when I was at Strangeways, it would be 1975, early on, one of the staff was telling me that the place was haunted. Of course, you expect it would be haunted, and I'd had that incredibly strange encounter with the cell at the end of B1, but I hadn't encountered any ghosts. But this member of staff who'd been there since the 1950s told me that, oh yes, B-Wing was haunted. And it wasn't just the condemned cell. It was many years later, well, 2 years, 3 years later, that I was working in Strangeways as a discipline officer. And it would be about 8 o'clock at night, 8:30. The prison was starting to get ready to lock down. And I was patrolling B-Wing. And I saw a man walking along B1 landing. A man, he wasn't a uniformed officer, and it wasn't an inmate, didn't look like an inmate, like a man in a suit with a little briefcase. Quite a dapper gentleman, I would say no more than 5'7", something like that. Very smartly dressed, but dark suit, black suit, yeah, I'd say it was a black suit, yeah, and a little briefcase in his hand, looked like a briefcase, black bag, yeah, walking along B1 landing. And I thought, there shouldn't be any people like this at this time of night. The prison is getting ready to lock down. So I followed this individual from, I think I was on B3 and he was on B1. I followed him along to watch where he was going, and as he came right to the end of B1 landing, to the stairs that go up to the central rotunda in Strangeways, he disappeared. I wasn't imagining this, so I came down the stairs very quickly and went to see the principal officer in the central box. You may have seen it on the documentaries, you know, at that box. And I just said, listen, there's a man just come down B1 landing, about 5'7", 5'8", that looks about that, you know, black suit, hat, wearing a hat with a briefcase. So he's got to the end of the B1 landing, going up the stairs, and disappeared. He said, you know who you've just seen, don't you? I said, yeah, some guy who's gone somewhere, and I don't know where he is. Shouldn't be in here at this time of night. We're locking up. No, he said, that is not a human being. He said, what you've actually seen there is the ghost of John Ellis, who was the hangman in this prison. I've got a picture of John Ellis. I've got a picture on my phone. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try and show it to you. See if you can see this, yeah? There you are. That's John Ellis. Yeah? You see that? His ghost haunts Strangeways, and he's deeply regretful of the deeds that he did. And he came back, as I said, and he transmitted his feelings of shame for his occupation as executioner. And he spoke through the well-known communicating medium, yeah, Leslie Flint. Do have a look on the internet. Don't take my word for it. And that's today's Tales from the Jails, for those who enjoy the rather disturbing stories of the paranormal. If you enjoyed this, do please subscribe and maybe get my book, Psychic Screw, by John G. Sutton.